In the events of the Callisto protocol, the scientists had found something buried underneath the surface of Jupiter's moon, Callisto. Something that would infect an entire city, a penal colony, and these were the biophages. In this video, we'll be delving into the tunnels of this dark and twisted excavation in order to answer the question of what the biophages are and how they operate. There is limited information on the biophages, however I will try to explain them to the best of my ability. The biophages are a pathogen of alien parasites with their ability to fester within other species, similar to parasites within our own world. However, these are much worse. See, the trouble with a parasite is that in truth they can grant the host some exceptional abilities. However, one thing the host must do is they must keep it in check, otherwise the parasite could begin to take over and become the host. Here with the biophages, this is no different. Once a larvae manages to infiltrate the body, either through a scratch, a tear in the skin, or even through one of the many orifices the human body possesses, it will begin to change the host's body at the molecular structure, changing them. This will lead into mutation with the organism granting the host abilities such as great strength, endurance, and longevity. However, after a certain period of time, the parasite will begin to travel towards the brain. Forget about changing the body. This is where it begins to change you, change your personality, change your sense of self into a highly aggressive person, and soon into a creature that isn't strictly human anymore. And eventually the biophage will ultimately replace you, which leads into death. Especially as the pathogen begins to reorganize the human body, first with the organs, then with the muscles, rearranging the bones, and then with the skin. This is why the biophages possess great strength that can tear you limb from limb in mere seconds if they get their hands on you. The reason for white pale skin on some biophage forms is due to the cycle of death and deterioration, as when death sets in and the body's temperature hits room temperature, the body's cells will begin to break down, creating bacteria in its wake, which will eventually become gases that will flow through the veins, giving the skin a pale white color. The gases can also bloat the skin, which is why some enemies seem to be bigger than others while only being a single corpse. The biophages in their transformation stage can also fuse together with other hosts in order to create some truly horrifying sights, such as the Two Headed Behemoth or the Shadow Stalkers. Abilities that are known in the anatomy of the biophages are as follows: flesh that can combust with the skin, appearing heavily resistant to fire. Another being able to camouflage themselves, similar to how chameleons manage to do so. Eventually, the evolution of the host body will begin to take on another shape, with several tentacles sprouting out from the chest, which will wrap themselves around the host body, beginning the next stage in its transformation, with the skin becoming a tough and rigid material, making them far more durable to attacks, effectively creating armor plating similar to that of a scorpion. To summarize what the biophages are, let's go through their evolution once contact has been established with a host. Infiltration of the host through any means necessary, changing the molecular structure of the host at the cellular level, subtly, which grants them certain abilities. Once the parasite has finished this task, it will begin traveling towards the brain in order to change the personality, and eventually take them over entirely. Once this stage is complete, the reorganization of the host's organs, muscles, bones, and skin would spell complete organ failure, and the host would die, leaving the body with a new commander. And finally, once the transformation is complete, the biophage will spawn out several tentacles, committing to forming the armored skin for a tougher and more durable hide. And these stages can happen through hours to mere seconds. Now that we have covered what the biophages are, let's go through the list of possible forms and their own set of abilities and appearances. The larvae are the infection forms of the biophage hordes. They have been described as a pathogen The larvae's size can vary between the size of a human thumbnail all the way to the size of an adult's head. The adult forms of the larvae possess no skeleton, much like some seafaring creatures like a squid or an octopus, allowing them to squeeze through tight gaps, such as cracks in walls or the orifices of organisms, so that they may be able to gain entry to the inner workings of the host's body. Despite its capabilities inside of a host, they are the weakest form in the biophage horde, with a host being able to defeat them quickly with just a knife or a baton. However, once this creature is encountered, the host must exercise extreme caution, as the larvae is covered in a slime that makes them very slippery, so grabbing them may be more difficult than first thought to be. The Thuggish forms are the main creatures in the biophage horde. This is due to the transformation process taking place with the infected host dying due to the rapid organ failure, with the appearance of the skin being covered in boils, which is something that happens after the rapid decay of the body. Other forms of this type can vary from size and shape, depending on the descent the body has gone through in the deterioration process after death. The abilities are as follows: increased speed and strength, durability being slightly higher than most humans, and their endurance is very high, making many wonder if there is still someone inside the mind of this creature. The form of the Thuggish will remain intact as an individual, making them slightly resemble humans. The purpose of these creatures are to be the main foot soldiers of the biophage forms. Through persistence, the creatures can be taken down with conventional weapons and through stun batons or other hard-hitting objects. A Tentacle Latcher will launch out of its cocoon and attack unsuspecting hosts with its powerful bite. Sinking its teeth into the person or organism, the cocoon will begin to use its powerful muscles to pull the tentacle back, which in turn pulls the host closer and closer to the pod. If the creature is successful, the cocoon will clamp down on the host's head or feet like a maw. Several teeth may be at play here, or perhaps an inner jawline crushes the victim to death. If the tentacle realizes that it has latched onto a heavily resistant host, it will let go and retreat back into its fleshy den, allowing the prey to either run away or to deal with it. To do this, the host must destroy the cocoon, as it is the only way to prevent another encounter. The appearance of this creature is a host's head connected to a tentacle that is burrowed deep inside of a cocoon made entirely of flesh and muscle. The organs too have been reconstructed to allow a snake-like body to form, with the spinal cord extending out, allowing the tentacle to perform grabs. However, the anatomy is comprised mostly of muscle, hence why it is so powerful. The spitter gets its name from its ability to spit acidic froth towards its victims for a ranged attack. However, it is more than capable of getting up close and personal with its powerful clawing motions. Unlike the Thuggish forms, these creatures possess several tentacles inside of its gaping maw, allowing it to infect those it grabs by releasing several tiny larvae down the throats of its hosts that it will encounter. The appearance of this creature seems to be two hosts twisted together, making it stronger than the simple Thuggish forms. The best way to deal with this threat is not what you think. The best way is to get close to it and to melee it until it either has had enough and retreats, or until the host had killed the creature. The Shadow Stalkers are comprised of 4 bodies twisted and molded together in the mutation stage, which gives them a huge mouth, used for clamping down on its victims or hosts, tearing their heads clean off. If that's not bad enough, they also possess the ability to cloak themselves by camouflaging themselves, similar to how chameleons do in the real world. The skin appears to be white, which is a sign that 4 hosts have been dead for at least 12 hours. Their main weakness is their attacks. See, when the Shadow Stalker goes in for an attack, their ability to cloak becomes shredded and visible to others. The creature must be subdued quickly while in this stage, if victory is to be assured. Otherwise, they will quickly retreat back to the shadows and camouflage themselves once more with their surroundings. The Sightless are hosts that have been mutated through the means of the mold, with their origin being stuck to the walls until they are disturbed from their slumber. However, their weakness of not being able to see due to having no eyes in fact becomes one of their biggest strengths, due to their other senses becoming heightened in the process, so much so that they can tell where a victim or a potential host is just by listening to their surroundings with pinpoint precision. However, if they have located someone, they will tear the host or victim limb from limb until they are left motionless, allowing for them to get back to their patrols. Extreme caution should be exercised here. If you have been detected, then treating them as a thuggish or spitter form is your best bet for survival. Similar to the crawlers and the exploders from the Dead Space universe, these are hosts that have mutated large sacs on their backs, with them being so heavy that the biophage is forced to crawl towards its prey. However, if they are so fortunate enough to grab a potential host, they will knock them down, climb on top of them, before issuing an explosive kill to their victim in a matter of seconds. The best way to deal with these enemies is from a distance, shooting them with guns or grabbing them with your grip and throwing them into other enemies, which can be very beneficial when in a firefight. The Two Headed Behemoth is a biophage that has fused together with another corpse. In the mutation process, the body has expanded to meet the mutation cycle, with the chests of these two tearing in the expansion. This creature is so strong, however, it can slice through a host's body like a knife through butter. However, even more intriguing, the biophage seems to occupy two biophage larvae, with each controlling the two sides of the body, seeming physically schizophrenic in nature. This is even more evident when enough damage has been dealt to the hulking creature that will just rip the other side completely off its hinges, so that it may be able to be faster in battle with this extra resistant enemy. The Alpha is the head honcho of the biophages, with its presence being akin to that of a commander. This biophage can create a protective flesh barrier to cover its face, while being able to secrete spit from the barrier's orifices to launch ranged attacks towards its prey. The creature, once being human or an independent organism, possesses the ability to control the larvae, granting them all of the upsides and none of the downsides. However, it can mutate at will like all of the other biophages. If needs be, it can command a terrible screech that will alert others to its location, effectively summoning aid if needs be. The Alpha is incredibly intelligent, possessing a mind of its own and even being capable of speech. If one is to be found in combat with the Alpha, then they must deal damage with only ranged attacks, as if it gets too close, it can rip a prey to shreds with ease. The face, like many may guess, is the only weak spot. As stated before, the biophages are able to mutate at will, creating a thicker and tougher hide, and even regenerating lost limbs in the process, which makes them a very formidable foe from the smallest form to the largest. Size in the biophage society isn't very much a factor here. For those of you who were wondering why I had decided to call these creatures different names in this video from their actual names, is because when I say long neck or big mouth, they don't sound very impressive or menacing, so I engineered to using new names to fit what they either do in their behaviour or what their appearance is, or based on their personal afflictions. The biophages in fact do make me think of what the necromorphs and the flood could turn into if they were to join together, and I think these creatures are perfect representations of what the two sides of that coin are, or what they would be if they were to combine together. But thankfully we probably won't have to find out about that anytime soon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, then give the video a like rating. Comment your thoughts on this topic below and I look forward to hearing from you. Sign up to join the British Alliance today by hitting the subscriber button and ringing in the notification bell to receive all updates from the channel. Thank you to all of my channel members for your extra mile support. It really helps me in creating more content for everyone, and if you would like to become a member today, then hit that join button and select which of the tiers takes your fancy. And I will see all of you among the cosmos, and be sure to have a good one.